Heyo guys, this is a story about what if Naruto, the melt. As a child, Naruto is taken in by Sarutobi to be his chosen successor to the mantle of Hokage. He develops a bloodline long thought lost to the world and learns along the way that, though he may be hated for his demon, his will of fire will burn brightly. And let's see what changes will come to Naruto verse, but before we start, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to this channel for more what ifs and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic. Now let us start.
Chapter 16. Team Bonding, and here's Chapter 16. Hope you like it. Readers, reviewers, thank you, all over you by live. Over 1000 alerts now. Thanks to all of you. Chapter 16. What do you want to know? Kurenai pondered the question, rolling it around in her mind. It was such an innocent question, one that had a lot of possibilities. She wanted to know many things. Why was he practically raised in the Hokage Tower? Why he took and assigned missions to Konoha ninjas? Why was he trained by so many different teachers? Why he hid his true strength and only gave half glimpses and half truths? I want to know everything. I want to know about your Kekkei Genkei, that knife you carry since I've never seen one like it before, and all your training. I want to know about you, Naruto. Anko smirked and elbowed Kurenai in the side, eliciting a grunt from her red-eyed friend. Getting comfy already, Kur-chan. And you were saying I was moving in early. Kurenai frowned and narrowed her eyes. You know, you aren't necessary for this part of the student-teacher conference, Anko. If you'd be so kind as to leave now, thank you. Anko's smirk left her face slowly until it settled into a frown. Are you telling me I can't stay in, Kur-chan? Yes, I'm asking you to leave. I'd like to talk to my students alone. He's my student too, you know. Anko, the trenchcoat-clad woman, stood in a huff and pushed her chair back in. Fine. I know when I'm not wanted. I'll see you later, Naru-chan. Goodbye, Kurenai. Kurenai sighed at her friend's actions and waved. Anko got to the door of the shop and narrowed her eyes. She might have to leave, but she would have the last word. Cupping her hands to her mouth, she yelled out across the shop. Kurenai, be sure to have your little boyfriend back home by 9 for Betty. Bye. You know how sleepy he gets after you work him hard all day. Seeing her student and friend glow red and glare at her, Anko stepped out of the shop cackling, her work finished for the day. It was too early to hit the bars, she might as well go torture some poor soul. Rolling her shoulders, she set out to find a victim. Maybe she and Ibiki could tag team a guy. Kurenai groaned and hid her reddening face in her hands. Naruto wasn't much better, and they could hear the whispers of the patrons of the shop, making things 10 times worse. Kurenai peeked out from behind her fingers to look at Naruto's beet red face and groaned. Let's just take this conversation to my home, okay? I'll get some more dangos to go. Naruto nodded, still not willing to look her in the eye, lest he turn even redder. Kurenai slipped out of her seat and walked to the counter. Can I get a few orders to go, please? The clerk eyed her warily as he rang up the purchase. Look, lady, I know you come here a lot, but I don't want no child mole. Kurenai growled and leaned over the counter so only he could hear. That is my student over there. My friend that left earlier will be getting hers later for embarrassing me in public like that. Just give me my order and let's forget what she said, or I'll make sure you sing soprano for the rest of your life. I'm embarrassed enough as it is. The man gave a quick nod and handed her a large order of dango. On the house, to atone for my mistake. I didn't mean to offend. Kurenai smiled and bowed her head slightly to the man, taking the offered dango. Thank you. I'm sorry for my outburst. Please accept my apologies. The man kept his eye on her but waved his hand dismissively, and Kurenai motioned for Naruto to head outside before anything else potentially embarrassing could happen. They walked to her house in silence, complete and suffocating silence. The day had started off so well for her and her students, and Anko had completely ruined it. Kurenai's only thought was that she was glad that Ino and Kiba hadn't been there to see that. She'd get Anko back later. Oh yes, she'd get her back, but it would have to be later. Once they reached her house, Kurenai ushered him in and told him to sit on the couch, which he did very stiffly. The red-eyed beauty sighed and sat the dango on the coffee table before him, as she sat out to make the tea. As the kettle began to heat up, she added the pouch of tea to the pot and turned back to look at her pupil. She was terribly curious about him. After all, How many could say they had a hand in shaping the Hokage's grandson and a future Hokage as well? But he was such a mystery. His Kekkei Genkei was unheard of, that knife he carried was something she'd never seen, and she was curious as to how he felt about harboring the Kyuubi. As the law went, she couldn't ask him about it, but if she could guide him into talking about it. Kurenai-sensei, are we going to talk or not? Kurenai shook herself out of her little stupor and smiled at her student. The tea could wait. She crossed the room and sat on the other side of the coffee table, on a pillow on the floor. We're going to talk. I was just making tea so we'd have something to drink. After Anko's little display, I need something to calm my nerves. Now, how about we start by telling me a little about yourself? Naruto tilted his head and blinked. Sensei, we already did this exercise earlier today. I told you about me. No, you told your teammates about you and you didn't say much. I know you and Kiba are friends, but you keep a lot from him. I take it you and Ino are just now starting to talk to one another. As your sensei, I want you to be able to talk to me about anything. To do that, you can't hide things from me or I can't help you. Just tell me about yourself. Naruto looked down at his hands and twiddled his thumbs nervously. He'd never actively spoken to anyone about himself outside of his family and senseis. But Kurenai was his sensei now and he should treat her as such. He took a deep breath and locked his blue eyes with her red ones. My Kekkei Genkei is called the Melt. It allows me to disappear inside of solid objects, as long as they can contain my mass. I can move at very high speeds while using my ability and can attack from anywhere. My field knife is unique to me. I don't know anyone else that has one and it handles differently from a kunai or a short sword. I know a few jutsus but I'm not truly a jutsu specialist. I'm more close combat and assassination. Kurenai winced when he said assassination. She knew it was a useful thing in the ninja world and she had assassinated some people as well, but for one so young to accept his role, it was just as Anko had said, the boy took his path in life seriously. A bit too seriously. Very good Naruto. Show me. The boy nodded and Kurenai watched with wide eyes as he began to sink into her couch. She watched closely, her trained eye searching for any genjutsu when she remembered, Naruto couldn't use genjutsu. And there weren't any ninjutsus she knew that allowed one to move on the earth. Any time someone seemed to disappear into a solid object, it was either an illusion or they had replaced themselves with some type of clone. But Naruto actually vanished. You know Kurenai-sensei, you have a really nice house. I can see a lot of it from my position here and it's very comfy. Kurenai spun round and round, searching for the source of his disembodied voice but found none. Naruto, where are you? Above you. Kurenai looked up and gasped. Naruto's head was the only thing visible from the ceiling as he grinned at her, more and more of his body becoming visible until he stood upside down on the ceiling. Kurenai was amazed. That is truly astounding. To think, I have a rare Kekkei Genkei user in my group of genin. Now come down from my ceiling and try not to leave footprints. I'll have you give a better demonstration to me and your teammates tomorrow. Naruto nodded and melted back into the ceiling before appearing again in his cross-legged position on the couch. Isn't tomorrow a little soon, sensei? The whistle of the teapot interrupted the two and Kurenai went to take it off the burner. As she poured the tea, she continued their conversation. No, it's not. If we're going to focus on team dynamics then we need to know what each member is capable of. And you're going to have to tell them eventually. Naruto nodded and took a sip of the tea she offered him. He didn't want to talk about this, but he knew that it would come up eventually anyway. Would you like to discuss the Kyuubi? Kurenai stopped mid-sip and looked over her cup at her student. This had come a bit earlier than expected. I can only discuss certain issues if you want to, Naruto. Do you want to? He nodded his head yes and Kurenai smiled. After this, there truly would be virtually no secrets between them. As you know, I'm the container of the Kyuubi. I found out a few years ago. I'm sure you've seen my profile about what I've done so far. Kurenai nodded her head. Well, that profile only contains the information that isn't classified. All the other stuff I'll have to tell you. I'm too valuable as a container and as a future Hokage to have too much information out about me. Kurenai winced at the word, valuable, like he knew that he was just a pawn. A child shouldn't feel like that. So, how did you find out? Who told you? I figured it out myself. It wasn't hard after listening to people whisper and doing a little digging about Biju in Gigi's library. I have to tell you something about sensei. You might as well know that, I can hear it. Kurenai's eyes widened to impossible proportions. He has a Kekkei Genkai, okay. He was killed before he was even a ninja, okay. He's the Sandime's pick for taking over after his reign is over, okay. He can actually hear the demon and might listen to it, not something she wanted to deal with. Have you talked to it? No. I refuse to acknowledge it. But I can hear it sometimes, usually when I'm stressed or in a fight. It gives me advice, or I think it does. Sometimes I think I just pick up random ramblings. But I can hear it. Naruto never responds to it. I'm sure you've been told that before by Hokage-sama, but don't ever talk to it. I don't want to think about what could happen. Naruto nodded and took another sip of tea. He needed something to calm him down after revealing all that. It wasn't often he trusted someone enough to tell them what he was and what he could do. That's pretty much it, sensei. Those are my big secrets. I'm good with my knife but nowhere near as good as Asuma-sensei. My taijutsu, Kalaripate, is very odd for a Konoha ninja. I start with soft blows to try to dissuade the enemy, but by the time I'm finished increasing the pressure, Gai-sensei said it's like being hit with a 2-ton weight. I can interrogate and have been told by Ibiki-sensei and Anko-sensei that I have talent. Truth be told, interrogation isn't all that bad. It's all in how you do it. Kurenai's eyes widened slightly. She hated to interrogate people and she didn't want another Anko in her hands. How do you interrogate people? Naruto calmly took a sip of his tea and locked eyes with her. Fear. I make them fear me. After all, if they see me as a demon, they'll tell me anything. And how do you? A low, rumbling growl filled the air and Kurenai shuddered. It was like there was a beast in the room with them. She took in Naruto's visage and noticed his elongated fangs, the way his eyes were cold, and that growl, it shook her to the bone. As quickly as it was there, it was gone. That's one of the ways I do it. If we ever have to interrogate anyone's sense, I'll do it. I know from your file that you hate to do it. She quirked her eyebrow and frowned at him. And how do you know what's in my file? You're not supposed to read files on Junin. Who do you think picked you for the academy? She gasped and sat her tea down. You picked me. But I thought Hokage-sama, Gigi asked me to pick a suitable replacement for Mizuki and I did. You were the only viable candidate and I thought you could straighten out the girls. Besides, it gives you valuable time with your future team and lets you know some of our strengths and weaknesses ahead of time. Kurenai shook her head and took a bite of dango off the skewer. The more she delved into Naruto, the deeper and more mysterious he became. She'd already found out what she wanted to know, but now, she just had a few more questions. Naruto, do you want to be Hokage? His spine straightened, his eyes snapped open fully, and his mouth gaped. No one had ever questioned him on that. Gigi is correct when he says that I don't have much choice in what I'm going to do because of my condition. I don't really have any other options. Kurenai shook her head again and locked her ruby-red eyes with his cerulean blues. That's not what I asked, Naruto. Stop avoiding the question. Do you want to be Hokage? He turned his gaze toward the floor and sighed heavily before looking back up. I don't know. I don't know what I want in life. I never have much say in what I do, sensei. I've learned to just go with the flow and take what little freedoms I have as blessings. As a Jinchuriki I'm a sacrifice and that's what my whole life has been. My whole life is a sacrifice and no one cares what I've taken away or what I'm denied. Kurenai was listening intently. This wasn't the polite child, or the bright and sunny child, or even the cold, aloof child he normally was. This was a wounded individual who obviously bottled things up. The least she could do was let him rant and rave. No one ever really stops to think about what I want. From the time I was 4, I've been trained to take that hat from Gigi. I didn't get to play much, I never got much time out, my nose was either in a book or buried in the ground courtesy of Gai-sensei. Then my Kekkei Genkai manifested and everything changed again. I virtually had no time for what few friends I have. Kurenai was entranced by the battery of emotions flitting across his face. It was almost surreal listening to a 13-year-old talk about such things. I have to put up with the villagers and their stupidity. I have to put up with Sasuke and his idiocy. I had to kill Mizuki. I had to take and assign missions to ninjas who looked at me with indifference. That hurts worse than hatred or love, when someone doesn't care one way or the other about you. I cherish my friends. I cherish the time I spend with them because when I'm with them, I don't have to be the kid in the robes, or act as a Hokage should, or set an example for others. I can be Naruto. His voice got lower as he spoke his final part, wrapping up his little diatribe. Do I want to be Hokage? No, I don't. But I realize that I have to if I want things to change. I don't want anyone else experiencing my life. If going to the top is the only way to change things, then I'll go to the top and show them who Uzumaki Naruto is. I'm not a demon, I'm not a monster. But if this village keeps it up, I might end up as one. You don't have what it takes to be a monster. Naruto stiffened, his eyes widened, and Kurenai rushed to him immediately. What's the matter? His voice was barely above a whisper. It spoke to me again. It told me I don't have what it takes to be a monster. She decided a change of subject may be in order if it was listening. Why do you and Sasuke hate each other? Naruto's eyes hardened at the mention of the boy's name and he frowned. He hates me because his dad said I was a demon in human form. He thinks that he's going to kill me after he kills Itachi, excuse me, if he kills Itachi. Sasuke is nothing but trash. The Uchihas do not taste very good either. Naruto snorted and Kurenai asked him what was so funny. It said that the Uchihas don't taste very good. Kurenai decided that his raw emotions were what helped the beast communicate and it would be best to end their talk now. I've found out all I want to know about Naruto. You should go home and rest. After all, we start those really fun D-rank missions tomorrow, you know. She smiled when he groaned and held out her hand to help him up. I think we're going to do fine, Naruto. Our team will do just fine. Now go home and rest. We have a big day ahead of us tomorrow. Naruto nodded and made a single hand sign. Kurenai blinked. Naruto, what are you? The feeling of a slight breeze was her answer and he disappeared before her very eyes, shunshunning home. Kurenai blinked again before laughing to herself and picking up the dango and tea. At least I won't be bored with that kid around. Kiba hollered out that he was home as he entered the kitchen and was greeted by the sight of his mother, sister, and their canine familiars. Tsume smiled at her son and motioned for him to sit. So, how was your team? Kiba grinned and sat Akamaru on the floor. It's great. I've got Yamanaka Ino and Uzumaki Naruto on my team. Tsume's smile widened a bit more. The Hokage's grandson, huh? I expect big things from your team then, Kiba. I've heard that that boy is a tank when it comes to battle. Training with Guy would do that to anyone though. The Yamanaka girl I'm not so sure of. You, however, had better be on your best behavior. Mom, I'm always on my best behavior. Tsume snorted and his sister Hana laughed as well. Kiba, I don't think you've been a good day in your life. I bet Mom can't remember a time she had you under control either. Tsume put her finger to her chin and, med. Nope, can't remember a time at all. The boy has always been a handful. Kiba was steadily getting angrier as their teasing went on and Tsume decided to stop before he destroyed something. Oh, stop it, son, don't get your panties in a wad. We're just teasing you. Now when is your test? We already took it. We passed. Tsume and Hana both shared a look and turned to him at the same time. Well, what was the test? Kiba shuddered, remembering Naruto's little sacrifice. We had to touch Kurenai-sensei while she stood still in the middle of a field. Tsume frowned and folded her arms. That doesn't sound too hard. While some chick named Anko protected her. Hana snorted and tried to stifle her laughter. She'd had to work with Anko on a couple of occasions when the woman needed a tracker and the bitch was crazy. There's no telling what the kids had done to get past her since Anko didn't know how to hold back. So how'd you get past her? Naruto said she liked to drink his blood, so he took off his shirt and offered himself up as a sacrifice before leading her away. Ino and I attacked Kurenai-sensei. She used some genjutsu and I threw Akamaru on top of her head. Then we had to rescue Naruto. Tsume and Hana both had silly grins on their faces as they thought of what Anko had probably done to the boy. The woman was completely batshit loco. We found him held down by big snakes and she was cutting him up and licking the blood off her kunai. The strange thing, Naruto was laying there bored, like it was an everyday occurrence. Tsume muttered to herself that it probably was. Hana, on the other hand, was a bit more curious. That kid has guts challenging Anko. You know, from what I remember of him, he's pretty cute. Maybe I need to come meet your team. Hell no. You stay away from him, sis. You're way too old for him. Hana jerked back and glared at her brother. Kiba clapped a hand to his mouth, realizing what he'd just said. He immediately bolted for the door before she came to her senses. Who the hell are you calling old? Sum sighed as her children took off out of the house. The two were way too rambunctious. Perhaps being on a team with Naruto would help Kiba calm down. She'd seen on occasion while observing the boy that he was polite and his mannerisms reminded her of the Aburame at times. Probably from hanging around that Shino boy so much. Her son's life would definitely not be boring from now on, especially with a future knockout like the Yamanaka girl on his team. Screams from outside indicated that Hana had caught Kiba and Sum chuckled. Things were definitely going to be interesting. She could see the dinner table conversations already. Yamanaka Ino had run home as fast as she could to tell her parents that she had passed. She burst through the door of the flower shop, scaring some of the patrons, and rushed for the counter where her mother was arranging a flower assortment for someone's anniversary. Mom, I passed. My team passed. Yamanaka Yuri smiled at her daughter and pushed the arrangement aside for the moment. She had to hear this. That's excellent, dear. I'll cook your favorite meal to celebrate tonight. Now, how did you do it? Yes, sweetie, how did you do it? Yamanaka Inoichi walked out of the back carrying a few bulbs in his hand and sat them on the counter. The patrons had all stopped as well to listen in on what had happened. Ino regaled them with the tale of how she was on a team with Inuzuka Kiba and Uzumaki Naruto. Inoichi was ecstatic and her mother smiled at the mention of the blonde's name, but she noticed that some of the customers had frowns on their faces. When she got to the part about rescuing Naruto, Inoichi was about to die from laughter. So, the kid offers himself up to Anko and she ties him down and starts taking blood from him. I think the kid has a masochistic streak in him. Anyone who would willingly let Anko cut him up is crazy as hell. Ino nodded in agreement when something came to mind. You know what though, daddy? Now that I think about it, by the time Naruto found his shirt, most of those cuts were healed up. Is there a Kekkei Genkei that can do that? Inoichi began to sweat slightly. This was going into dangerous territory and he needed a way out. Tell me, sweetie, what do you think of Naruto? Ino looked off into space, as if envisioning her fellow blonde. Well, he's really nice and usually laughing and joking around. He's really good looking and without clothes, he's actually pretty buff. I mean, he even has a six-pack. Inoichi, seeing that he'd steered her out of dangerous waters, now had to reel his hormonal daughter back in. So, he's better looking than the Uchiha boy. Well, he has a better body, daddy. Inoichi laughed and waved his daughter over to her mother for what he called girl talk. He had customers to take care of. Ino walked over to her mother, thoroughly embarrassed. She'd almost admitted that Naruto was better looking than Sasuke. That was a close one. Her mother, however, wasn't one to let an opportunity to tease go. She'd put her cheeks in her hands and leaned on the counter. So Ino, who has the better body? Mama. 8 a.m. came early for Team 8 the next day. Naruto, Ino, and Kiba were already waiting for Kurenai when she arrived. She smiled at her team, the 3 genin that she would mold, and put her hands on her hips. Now then, we can go in and get a mission from the Hokage, or we can have a team practice. We'll do both today, but I'll let you choose which we do first. Naruto grumbled under his breath and Kiba turned to him. What did you say? I said let's do the mission and get it over with. The sooner we get done the better. Ino and Kiba looked at him quizzically. The blonde girl was the first to question him. What do you mean? You'll see. Kurenai smiled and walked past them, pushing the door open and ushering them inside. Naruto, if you'll be so kind as to guide us there. The whiskered boy grunted and made his way to the office where Sarutobi would hand out mission assignments in the morning. He'd been there often enough to walk there in his sleep. He sighed heavily and opened the door. Sarutobi smiled and bridged his hands together, resting his chin on them. It had been quite an affair when Naruto came home the night before and they'd had quite the little shindig. He saw Naruto's disgruntled look and knew exactly why the boy was so melancholy. D-rank missions were a shinobi's bane. Naruto knew this, but his teammates were about to find out firsthand. Team 8, led by Yuhi Kurenai, reporting for our first mission, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi smiled at Kurenai and pulled out the D-rank scroll. Now Kurenai-chan, no need to be so formal. I'm glad to see you four here this morning. You're the first genin team to pass this year, you know. The three children grinned and Sarutobi glanced down at the scroll, a wicked gleam in his eyes. This'll get you back for that Warok no Jutsu, you little brat. Let me see now. No, here we are. Tora the cat has escaped again from his owner, the daimyo's wife. Team 8, your mission is to find and capture the cat. Kiba and Ino stood gobsmacked. This was a ninja mission. Kurenai was trying not to giggle at their responses, until Naruto marched over to the desk. Give me that damn scroll. There's got to be a better mission than that. I'll assign it myself. Naruto. Naruto winced at the harsh sound of that voice. He only heard it from his grandfather when he did something wrong, and he realized where he had messed up. He bowed his head in shame. Naruto, you don't assign missions anymore, do you? No, Hokage-sama. Do you have any say-so in this tower at the moment? No, Hokage-sama. You're supposed to set an example for your teammates, Naruto. I'll be having a talk with you this evening. Now Team 8, go capture that cat, and Naruto. Don't kill it. Team 8 followed out behind a crestfallen Naruto, and Kurenai turned to apologize to Sarutobi, who smiled kindly and waved his hand. He's been assigning missions so long that he thought he'd be able to pick his own. He's going to have to adjust to genin life now. Might as well start him at the bottom of the barrel. Kurenai nodded and closed the door behind her. She never saw Sarutobi's wicked grin or heard him whisper to himself. That'll teach you, you little pest. She did hear him cackle, however. That was strange. Ino and Kiba rounded on Naruto as soon as they left the tower. What the hell was that all about, Naruto? You used to assign missions. I knew you worked in the tower, but that. Ino stared at her blonde teammate in awe. What all had she missed about him in the years she had given up his friendship? Kurenai walked up behind Naruto and patted him on his shaggy head. Now Naruto, I know you hate D ranks, but they're necessary. Besides, the more you get done sooner, the faster you'll get a C rank. You know that. Ino, Kiba, Naruto will be happy to tell you more about himself at our team meeting later. Right now, we have to catch Tora. Naruto grumbled and kicked a stone as they walked away from the door. Stupid cat. I hate cats. Yeah, me too. Akamaru barked in agreement from Kiba's jacket, and Ino walked up beside Kurenai. Sensei, are these really missions? They seem kind of dumb. Kurenai smiled at her pupil and stopped in the road. They are, but they serve a purpose. They promote teamwork between team members and give the genins a little pocket money before they move up to C ranks, like protecting people and stopping bandits. Tora is a special case. The Lady Daimyo has been losing that pet for years now. There have actually been several Toras over the years, but the one thing that they all have in common is that they run away from her. Kiba seemed to be in deep thought, a rare occurrence for the boy. Hey Kurenai-sensei. Is the daimyo's wife here in Konoha? She tilted her head and looked at him. Yes. Why? Well, if she has something with his scent on it, me and Akamaru can track him down sooner. I'd like to get this over with and get some actual training done. Kurenai's smile brightened. Perhaps the boy wasn't quite so dense after all. That's an excellent idea, Kiba. Let's go find her. It felt like they'd been in the woods for hours. They were hot, they were sweaty, and if they didn't catch that damned feline on the next go, all three genin had sworn to start using actual jutsus. Tora had evaded them every time they made a move against him, and Kurenai was starting to fear for what her genin might do. Naruto had been on assassinations after all. Kiba had the cat's scent again, and the three genin and puppy moved in a box formation on the cat's location. Naruto could see the damnable thing in the bushes and noticed a small puddle behind it. Perfect. He tapped his communicator and Kiba and Ino halted. Hold your positions. I have an idea. Naruto formed a cage bunshin where Ino and Kiba couldn't see and had it melt into the ground. It came up behind the cat and formed the Suiro no Jutsu, trapping the cat inside the impenetrable water ball. Naruto tapped his communicator again. Pest caught. Move in. The three genin walked up to where the clone held the cat in a ball of water, the now soaked feline fighting to be released. Naruto reached his hand inside the prison and grabbed the cat by the nape of its neck. Tora hissed at Naruto and he let out a bone-chilling growl that made even Akamaru's neck hair stand on end. Tora flew into Ino's arms and sat there, nestled safely into her bosom. The girl frowned at the feel of the wet cat and glanced over at a self-satisfied Naruto. What the hell was that? You nearly gave me a heart attack. Naruto shrugged and gave the cat another withering glare. It worked, didn't it? The cat doesn't look like it'll be running anytime soon. And besides, I used to growl at you Sasuke fangirls all the time. Kiba slapped him on the back and grinned. That was pretty cool, man. Can you teach me that jutsu? Naruto grinned back and scratched his head. We'll see. I'm not a very good teacher. Can we go now, sensei? Kurenai landed beside them and cast an appraising eye on them. That was very good, team. You worked together well, although it took longer than I would have thought. Let's take him back and receive our mission pay. Then, we'll have the team meeting I talked about. They followed her back to the Hokage Tower, Naruto, Kiba, and Akamaru growling slightly to keep the cat firmly in Ino's arms. The girl was fretting over the smell of wet cat on her clothes and Kurenai rolled her eyes. She certainly wasn't bored with these three. Sarutobi smiled when they came in, nearly laughing at how the two boys and dog growled at the cat and told the daimyo's wife where to pay. Kurenai reported mission complete. Sarutobi crossed it off the list completely, and Team 8 left to get lunch and have that talk. Naruto was noticeably nervous. So obviously nervous that Kiba and Ino had called him on it several times. He brushed off their concerns, but the closer they got to the training ground assigned to them, the more he began to sweat. Kurenai noticed it and coughed into her hand once they were settled in. I had a talk with Naruto last night and he has agreed with me that you should know certain things about him. You are a team now and there shouldn't be any secrets as to what you can and can't do. Naruto, if you would. She motioned for him to stand and he did so reluctantly. He hated to reveal his Kekkei Genkei, but these people were his team and he could trust them. I have a Kekkei Genkei. I'm the only one who has it that we're aware of. With it, my specialty is assassination, and it works spectacularly. Ino and Kiba's attention was front and center as he spoke. Kiba immediately asked what it was. It's easier to show you. Just watch. The two genin watched with steadily widening eyes as Naruto began to sink into the ground until he was completely gone. Kiba sniffed the air, trying to find him, and Akamaru did the same. Naruto's disembodied voice filled the air. Don't bother trying to smell me, Kiba. I'm actually part of the ground now. You couldn't find me if you had the best nose in the world. Watch the tree to your left. Kiba and Ino swung their bodies to face the tree and watched as Naruto melted out of the tree with a grin on his face. Pretty cool, huh? I can melt into virtually anything except liquids. And I'm pretty quick with it. Ino, still amazed, asked him how quick. Naruto sank back into the tree and was behind her in an instant with his arms around her waist. This quick. He gave her a squeeze with his fingers, making her shriek, while Kiba and Kurenai laughed. Kiba stopped laughing at Naruto dodging Ino's blows and wiped the tears from his eyes. That was great. That's an awesome ability, man. I'm sure it'll come in handy. You can sneak up on anyone with that thing. It'd be great for peeking. Ino growled and socked Kiba in the jaw, sprawling him out on the ground while Kurenai shook her head disapprovingly. Naruto sighed and helped his slightly concussed friend back to his feet. Guys, I have one more confession. I've killed already. I've killed 4 times. Ino gasped and Kiba just stared at him. Sure, Naruto wasn't your average guy, but to have killed already. They'd just become genin. I did it before I was even a ninja. Once on my 10th birthday when a guy tried to kill my mom, and a few months ago I was sent to interrogate and assassinate the traitor Mizuki. You killed Mizuki-sensei. Naruto nodded to Kiba and the dog boy sat for a while, pondering. Ino walked up to him and looked him in his eyes. How was it? What? To kill? What did it feel like? Naruto looked up to the sky and sighed. It felt weird. You feel detached when you kill the first time, like you're standing there watching from outside your body. The next few times, you actually feel it as you kill them, you see the blood and you feel the pounding of your heart. But you have to keep going, you can't let it eat at you, at least, that's what Enko-sensei says. Kurenai clapped her hands and the genin all turned toward her. Eloquently put, Naruto. I couldn't have said it better myself. Ino, Kiba, this is part of the harsh reality of being a shinobi. Naruto has experienced a lot before he even became a ninja. I'd like you 3 to discuss it amongst yourselves today. Consider this your training for the day. Devise a strategy based on your abilities. Learn to work well together. Become more comfortable with one another. Ino looked over to her sensei. Where are you going, sensei? Kurenai turned and put her hand into the sign for Shunshin, grinning as she did. I'm going to a Junin bar to meet up with the other instructors and gloat a bit. None of the others had their test till today and I want to see how your competition did. She disappeared in a whirl of leaves and Ino and Kiba turned to Naruto expectantly. He looked from one to the other and shrugged. What? Kurenai rolled her shoulders as she walked into the bar. She could already hear the sounds of Anko making a scene inside and the boasting of Guy as he tried to con Kakashi into something frivolous. She set her face into a smirk and walked inside. Asuma greeted her cheerfully and she smiled back at him before walking over to Anko and sitting beside her. The eccentric woman turned to whoever had sat down beside her and grinned. Kur-chan. So, how was today? It was all right. I'd like to hear how everyone else did though. Asuma took a drag on his cigarette and grinned. He already knew her team had passed. Naruto was his nephew after all. My team passed with no trouble. All they had to do was find me within an hour and capture me. Hinata found me and Choji herded me toward Shikamaru, who captured me in his cage main. They'll do fine. A few more instructors announced their team's failure and Kurenai waited patiently for Kakashi to speak. There were very few teams that passed and she knew that the one with the Uchiha boy on it was pretty much guaranteed to pass. Everyone waited for Kakashi to announce his team's status, but nothing ever came. Thank Kami for Guy. Kakashi, my youthful rival. Tell us how your team did today. Kakashi glanced up from his porn and blinked slowly. You say something, Guy. His job of annoying Guy beyond measure done, he turned to the others present and gave them an eye smile. My team passed. They didn't work well together at first but they eventually passed my test by helping each other after the initial test was over. Shino can be quite persuasive when he wants to be. Kurenai couldn't help herself any longer. How is their teamwork, Kakashi? Is Sasuke willing to work with the others? He does so begrudgingly. I'll have to work with him on that. Sakura will follow whatever Sasuke says and Shino, well, Shino is Shino. I think they'll work out in the end. He turned a lazy eye to Kurenai. And you, Kurenai, how did your test go today? Kurenai smiled. Here was her moment to shine. I had my genin take my test the day of graduation. They had their first D rank today. Their only goal was to touch me as I stood still in the middle of a field. The other instructors groaned at the ease of the test, but Anko grinned, knowing her part in the story was coming up. Kakashi snorted and opened his book again. And here I thought you were a little more hard-nosed, Kurenai. My genin had to touch me while Anko guarded me, authorized to use whatever means she deemed necessary. The entire place went quiet and Anko snickered. She was glad that Kurenai got to show the jackasses up. Kakashi, while interested, didn't show it on the outside. How did they pass? And, who were your genin again? My team is Inuzuka Kiba, Yamanaka Ino, and Uzumaki Naruto. They passed when Naruto offered himself up as a sacrifice to Anko and led her away from me. Ino and Kiba used teamwork to get past my genjutsus and threw Akamaru at me to end the exercise. The place was quiet for an instant before Guy's voice broke the tension. What happened to my former pupil? Oh, Anko caught him eventually and held him down while she cut him and drank his blood. Nothing big. Anko-san, that was most unyoutful. My student did not deserve that. Anko merely smirked and flipped a kunai in her palm. Guy, he's my pupil as well and I'll cut him if I want to. Kurenai drowned out the two as they bickered and grinned at Kakashi and Asuma. So, what do you think? Asuma shrugged and grinned back at her. My nephew is something else. Not many would challenge Anko like that. Kakashi shook his head and snorted. I doubt that Naruto could beat Sasuke or Shino. I know your other two genin couldn't. Asuma backed up slightly, knowing how Kurenai's competitive nature would come out. Said woman narrowed her eyes and grit her teeth. Let's just see in due time then. I'm pretty sure they'll meet in competition soon enough. When the time comes, I'll expect you to put money on that. Kakashi smirked under his mask. He never passed up a bet. It's a deal then. Whenever we have the opportunity to have the two of them face each other in friendly competition, I'll put money on Sasuke. Kurenai grinned and stood to leave. I'll hold you to that. Well, I'll be taking my leave now. Good night, gentlemen. Kurenai stifled a laugh as she left. Kakashi fell for her trap hook, line, and sinker. There wasn't any way Naruto would lose to Sasuke. She had faith in her student's abilities. Her day was complete. She'd watched her genin get tortured by a D-rank mission, had Naruto reveal his Kekkei Genkei to his teammates, and set up a near-guaranteeable win in a bet with Kakashi. Her step was light as she walked home. Life was good. Asuma clapped Kakashi on the shoulder and shook his head when the man turned. You know you've been suckered, right? Kurenai's got that bet in the bag. Seriously, Kakashi, did you even read the reports on the prospective genin? No, I didn't. And I don't think so. I've never seen a genin with more promise than Sasuke. Naruto might be good, but when Sasuke unlocks his Sharingan, Naruto won't stand a chance. Asuma snorted and Kakashi blinked. Whatever you say, man. I'm just saying I know my nephew better than you, and the Sharingan is nothing but a roadblock. He'll find a way around it. He always does. Asuma left the bar, leaving Kakashi alone with his sake and book. The one-eyed Junin looked toward the exit and shrugged. He knew Sasuke could win that fight. Right. Team 8's bonding experience is next and the story will begin to roll along after that. Let me know what you think.
Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.